Kytheon stood before the Warden, bound in iron at the wrists. A pleased smile stretched across his face. Hexxus waved his hand, and the two guards who had escorted the young prisoner turned and left Kytheon and the Warden alone. Hexxus leaned casually against a wooden table that was littered with various piles of documents. The Warden was broad at the shoulders, and he wore a breastplate with the ease of a seasoned soldier. He stared at Kytheon, seemingly studying his face. After a moment, he ran his fingers through his thick, gray beard and spoke.
"You've been here for less than 2 days. 2 days of a 10-year sentence. A brawl in the waterworks, 7 prisoners in the infirmary, and a riot, all on your account."
To Kytheon's ears, it sounded like a list of accomplishments.
"Ah, yes. And I'm told that you attempted escape as you were being transported here yesterday. Can you blame me? Is there someone else?"
Kytheon didn't answer.
"For my own curiosity, had your escape worked? Were you not afraid of what would happen to you once you were apprehended again?"
"I can take it. Besides, you haven't spent much time in the foreigners' quarter, have you? If I made it there, the irregulars would protect me. You'd never get me again."
It was the Warden's turn to smile.
"Ah, the irregulars. Protectors of the quarter. Kytheon's irregulars. Yep, quite a loyal following. And many of them end up spending time here. Your friend Dracis is a current representative of the irregulars in here, isn't he? Now you as well. You know, there are quite a few prisoners in here who have words and more for you and your irregulars. Yet it seems you insist on making more enemies."
Ristos? My mother called people like him weak because their strength comes from how others see them. Strength comes from action, she said. Ristos is weak. I saw it right away. Now everyone else here knows it too.
I see. In that case, it shouldn't surprise you that he is here with his men in the infirmary.
I never touched him.
It's like you said, though. His strength evaporated the moment a kid took down his men in front of the other prisoners, and he fled for safety. When you were locked away last night, a riot erupted. Started by Dracis, mind you. They'd had enough of Ristos, and let him know it. Not everyone has your gift to shrug off attacks.
He had it coming.
Perhaps. He is a brute. That much is true. But some things have value beyond their surface appearance. Bad as he was, he helped maintain order.
The Warden threw his hands up.
Now what do I do?
I can't tell you how to do your job, Warden.
No, you can't. But maybe you can help me. Are you my next Ristos?
I'm better than Ristos.
Are you? Prove it.
Prove it? He's in the infirmary, and I barely have a scratch.
And what now? Will you take his place? Replacing him doesn't make you better. It makes you the same.
We'll never know. I don't plan on staying.
With a movement so quick that it startled Kytheon, Hexxus took the heavy ring of keys that hung from his belt and dropped them on the table. Iron clattered on wood, and before the sound faded, Hexxus had a dagger in his hand. Kytheon took a step back, raised his fists defensively, and light erupted over his body in frenetic ripples.
Do not feel threatened. By all accounts, trying to harm you physically would be fruitless.
He flipped the dagger deftly in his hand so that he gripped the blade, and he offered it to Kytheon.
Take it.
Kytheon hesitated only for a moment. His fingers closed around the hilt.
I offer you your freedom. All you have to do is take the keys, and escape is yours.
You'd just let me out of here?
No. You'll have to kill me for the keys. If the rumors of your fighting skills are true, I don't stand much of a chance.
Pride swelled in Kytheon. He always liked to fight. He was good at it. Kytheon pointed the dagger at the Warden for a long moment. Neither averted his gaze from the other.
I'm not going to kill you.
He dropped his arm to his side, letting the dagger clatter to the floor.
'Cause you're not a murderer. You're not Ristos.
Sorry to disappoint you.
On the contrary, I'm encouraged by this outcome. It is what I was hoping for. It is what I believe to be true. You are here, a thief, condemned for stealing. But what you stole was food to help feed your friends and their families. You do what you think is right.
Kytheon stared down at the chain that hung between his ankles.
What do you want from me?
From most of my prisoners, I want serenity and obedience. From you, I want you to accept my offer. I want to train you, Kytheon.
Though Kytheon hadn't agreed to the training, his protest had been largely ignored. He was roused before the sun the next morning and dragged out to the prison's modest gymnasium. It was a round patch of packed earth surrounded by high walls. Hexxus was standing in the center of the arena-like circle. He tossed his ring of keys to the dirt.
I'm still not going to kill you.
I hope not. Just come and get them.
The corner of his mouth curled into a smirk.
Succeed, and they're yours.
Kytheon charged. Hours later, Kytheon lamented. He had gained no ground. Each of his charges were abbreviated by chains of brilliant white energy that erupted from the ground to shackle his limbs, or by lashes of luminescent magic that pushed his limbs just enough to interrupt his gait and send him tumbling to the dirt. There could be no progress. The keys were infinitely far from his grasp, and with each fruitless exertion, they edged even further away. Then, without a word, Hexxus scooped up the keys and left the gymnasium. Kytheon dropped to his knees in the dirt, frustrated and full of spite. The days that followed unfolded much like the first. Hexxus offered the keys, Kytheon attempted to retrieve them, but failed. Hexxus left with the keys, and Kytheon seethed at the cruel game. One gray morning, after a punishing storm, Kytheon struggled to rise from the muddy mire that had become the gymnasium ground for what felt like the 100th time. When his strength failed, he collapsed back into the muck. Red-eyed, he yelled at the Warden.
I can't do it.
Why is that? Are you not brave enough?
Kytheon turned away.
Are you not strong enough? Or fast enough?
The Warden stood over Kytheon, looking down at the boy who returned his gaze with eyes that were filling with tears and contempt.
It's not me. It's you. You won't even let me get close.
At that, Hexxus knelt in the mud beside him.
Now you understand.
It was common to call hieromancy law magic, but Hexxus said this was an oversimplification.
Laws are created by people, and laws can change. But laws are created in reaction to specific behaviors. A person steals, and laws are put in place to prevent more theft. This is the starting point for hieromancy as a practice. Every action has a response that can counter it. A master of hieromancy can adapt to any scenario and turn it to his advantage. Victory in any contest will go to the one who has control of the situation.
Half a dozen escape attempts later, Kytheon took to his training. It complemented his natural talent for reading others in combat, intuiting their position and body language to understand what they would do next. Hieromancy gave Kytheon a tool to disrupt opponents and press his advantage. Every morning, Kytheon the student was awakened before dawn to join Hexxus in the gymnasium, and every afternoon the irons that bound his wrists were replaced, and Kytheon the prisoner rejoined the others at the waterfall of Akros. He benefited from both activities. Hieromancy strengthened his mind, and turning the crank strengthened his body. He fell into a rhythm, and for 4 years he relied on the structure to carry him through his days, until one morning his rhythm was interrupted. Kytheon's eyes flew open at the piercing sound of a shrill shriek. He bolted up, alert. It was later than usual, he could tell. Where were the guards? More shrieks sounded, gathering together as a rising, terrible chorus. Harpies. He didn't know how he knew, but he did know. Though he had never encountered one, Kytheon knew them from stories. Winged horrors that feasted on the dead and carried off children. He sprang to his feet and strained to look out his window. The Harpies were approaching from upriver. Their relentless shrieks were answered by the deep clanging of bells, calling soldiers to their posts on the walls of the Colophon, the mighty Acrone fortress. The panicked scrambling from above meant that no Stratian or Oromai rider arrived with warning. Kytheon watched through his narrow slit of a window as the horde descended on the fortress like flies on a ripe corpse. The Harpies were endless, and he couldn't shift his gaze from the black cloud of feathers and talons and hunger. Through the terrible noise, Kytheon heard a pounding at his cell door. He saw Hexxus' face in the door's barred window.
The polis is under attack. Harpies. In unprecedented numbers.
The bolt in the door clicked, and the door swung open. The Warden filled the doorframe. He had donned his full armor, his bronze-plated breastplate, matching greaves, and metal-crested helm. He gripped his unsheathed sword in one hand and held a rough sack slung over his shoulder in the other.
Do you want to earn your freedom?
Hexxus tossed the sack at Kytheon's feet. Kytheon raised an eyebrow. He knelt and reached into the sack, and when he withdrew his hand, it was wrapped around the hilt of a sheathed Acrone sword. The other contents complemented the armaments of a hoplite, breastplate, greaves, and a round shield. Kytheon grinned. A short while later, Kytheon found himself, armed and armored, in the prison's cavernous waterworks, among a little under half of the prisoners. Warden Hexxus stood atop a chunk of masonry and addressed the gathered criminals.
As you know, a host of Harpies attacked the polis ahead of any scouts. We do not know why, and that does not matter. I have been given orders to open my cells and offer freedom to those who fight to defend the polis. You here are the willing ones. Despite what has come before, Akros is your polis. What you do today will shape its future and your place in it. If you die in battle, then it will be among heroes. Earn this.
Once again, thank you for making it to the end of another video. Each video is getting easier to produce, but taking the same amount of time because of what we are doing to make each one better. We have so much planned, and Throne of Eldraine is coming out very soon. This weekend, I will be releasing my first complete and total historical lore video on Chandra Nalaar. The scriptwriting process has been brutal, but I am almost done and ready to record. This whole process has given me a whole new understanding of who Chandra is and why I think she is integral to the Magic the Gathering universe. Stay tuned for that video, and the Art Seeker has a top secret project that she has been working on. Maybe you'll see that next week. In the end, we are constantly trying to put out the best quality product that we possibly can. We hope you enjoyed this and subscribe to our channel, as we are dedicated to getting this content out to you twice a week. We are ramping up production on bigger adventures and really trying to find a niche in this YouTube community. Hey, even if you have no idea what Magic the Gathering is, stay for the incredible stories. Our goal is to hit 50 subscribers by the end of this year. Thank you so much for watching, and if you watched to this point in the video, I have 2 questions for you. First, who is your favorite Planeswalker and why? And second, do you regularly play Magic the Gathering? If you want to leave a comment down below, I would love to hear from you. And I'm still small enough here on YouTube that I will respond to each and every one of you that comments. I promise that. That's it for this video. And as always, seek on.